Hey everybody, well right now you know the story. Mark Stevens, managing general partner of S Cubed, formerly managing general partner or managing partner of Sequoia Capital, and during the time when Sequoia Capital invested in Google, you know the name, PayPal, you know the name, LinkedIn, you know the name, decides for some reason, maybe aligned with the use of alcohol, I don't know, that he is going to push Kyle Lowry away from him, even though Kyle Lowry is, what, a chair and a half away? There's no need for that. So here you have not just any person, but, and not just this, a lot of people say, well, he's the Warriors core owner and all this. That's not the big story. You wanna know what the big story is? I'll tell you. The big story is that Mark Stevens is a major part of the engine, that the financial engine that grew Silicon Valley. He is, for all practical purposes, if you line them up, one of the people that made Silicon Valley what it is today. Because in part, were it not for his involvement, you would never have heard of Google. I did. Or LinkedIn. I did. Or PayPal. I did. The reason why I say I did is because those three companies were small names known to just a handful of people who were tech savvy and tech oriented and tech involved at the time they were created during the early aughts. So, and the mid aughts. So, he and others like Joe Lacob of Clymer Perkins essentially gave birth to those firms and made Silicon Valley what it is today. But not only that, they arguably are responsible for the extremely high cost of living that has plagued the Bay Area, not to mention California, the extreme institutional racism that Silicon Valley is known for, and, by extension, this boorish behavior that we saw. So in all this, you have people who say what he did wasn't racist. Excuse me. It was. Okay? It was racist. Richard Hike. Richard, how you doing? Richard, thank you for Tuesday. Richard says, hypothetically, had Lowry crashed into Beyonce and Jay-Z was the owner, do you think the punishment would be equivalent? I don't think that, first of all, well, you and I know the answer to that question. Because Jay-Z would not have pushed him. Okay? Jay-Z would have given him a hug, made sure he was okay, give him a pat on the back. But Jay-Z would not have done that. Jay-Z would not have done that. He would not have just, shoved him like that, okay? That shove and the face behind it was an act of meanness. It just was. Something else, too, is I had a conversation with a friend who said it didn't look mean. It didn't look like he was racist. It looked like he was just a guy who thought he was above everybody else and better. Well, and I said to my friend who's white and an executive, and I said, look, to us as African Americans, that's racism. That's institutional racism. See, the problem between blacks and whites is that, and this is unfortunately an age-old problem until communication lines are clear to where we have empathy. In other words, I understand your walk and I understand what you're saying and vice versa, right? My friend did, because he says, look, I don't understand what it's like to be black. I understand what you have to deal with. And so, well, the point is that you have a situation where a person who's white thinks that a person has to use a racist epithet in order for the incident to be able to be colored racist. It can't just be an act. But the fact of the matter is that racism is the act of putting someone down because of race. And there are a number of people who have gotten away with the idea of putting people down because of race, but not saying that, but not making it obvious. It's almost like they're patting themselves on the back for their craftiness, you know. Rob Iman says, "I'm glad Adam Silver took swift action." I am too, but I do think that Mark Stevens should have been banned for life, and not just for a year. And I think I call that the billionaire, okay, the owner / billionaire okay. That's what I call that. All right, and I just have to say that it wasn't a good look for the Warriors. And Richard says, we don't know what someone else would do. No, actually, I think we do. You know? No, we do. We do. I mean, it may be hard for you to want to go there, but after 57 years, I got it down pat. Okay? There are people, you know when there are people who are being racist, and you know, and people who are not. And not only that, we've had, Richard Hike says the sideline antics have been nasty lately. They have. But foremost among those antics, as you call them, have been acts of racism. And in basketball, baseball, soccer, Rob Iman says, Steven will never be allowed to attend another Warriors game once his ownership stake is strapped. I should hope so. Because, look, it's exemplary of a total problem. I mean, look at the whole deal regarding the Warriors leaving Oakland and San Francisco. Yes, Ed Lee did an incredible job being aggressive, but Joe Lacob could have said, you know, I want to remain in Oakland. I want to invest in this city and the diverse fan base that has supported us. Instead, he's going from a diverse fan base to a fan base in San Francisco. Look, that is half engaged in the Warriors. It's not the same. It's not going to be the same. You can go to any bar in San Francisco, and I will bet you 1/4 of that bar will not be at all. At all. And Jay Willis 5-1 says, that's how the Malice in the Palace happened. Fans crossing the line. Yeah, the Malice in the Palace was the man who now calls himself Meta World Peace, who then called himself Artest, going up in the stands to go after a fan. And to this day, I have mixed emotions about that. There's part of me that was glad to see it. The other part of me thought, you know, he shouldn't have done it. And I walked that tightrope. Now, because there are people who seem to just get off on doing that because they feel so bad about themselves, they have to make you feel bad. As a person of any stripe, I don't care if you're a white person being taunted, because I've, you know, dealt with situations where I had friends who were white in that situation, or this one where a black person is. You have to be on your best behavior all the time. Richard says, verbally assaulting a player is ejectable. Leaving your seat and going to the floor is arrestable. And that's interesting. Someone on Twitter, Richard, said that, wrote that if Kyle Lowry, if Lowry had went into Mark Stebbins' office and hit him, he could have been arrested. And for all practical purposes, that's what Mark did. He hit Kyle Lowry, and it was a complete blind shot. Lowry's sitting there, he just pushes him like that. I mean, here Lowry is already trying to recover from the fall, right? And he gets this. But the other thing that bothered me about the act that Mark did was that it was so freaking boneheaded. Mark didn't stop to think, you know what? I might be firing up these guys with my actions. I better take myself out of the equation. But no, he didn't do that. He did the opposite. He made himself part of the game. And so that uptick in the score, I believe, came, and I haven't looked at it, but if I go back and look at it, I'm pretty certain it came after that incident. Okay. Rob Iman says, the Warriors and Stevens could also be held liable in civil court. And that's what I was thinking as well. But see, to me, I thought Stevens could be arrested for assault. All right. I thought he could be arrested for assault. And spiritually, you have to think, why did this happen to him? What is it that was going through his head at the time? I mean, that happened, you know, why? I mean, on the surface, he seems to be doing quite well. He lives in Atherton. He's started some of the great, from a financing standpoint, great tech companies of our time, social media tech companies of our time, and tech companies like Google. He is worth $2.3 billion, has 3 kids, is on a number of boards, and one of those boards may strip him of his seat. I'm not saying they've announced that, but it could happen. But the man is, and with all of that, he's been a low-profile contributor to Republican candidates. Cowboy Wrestler said, "Thank God that Kyle Lowry held his composure. It would have been malice in the palace too." Oh yeah, it would have been ugly. It would have been ugly, especially since Kyle Lowry got up and was over him. But Richard said, "I looked at the fall. Lowry may have hit his lady friend on the way down. I might get a bit pissed if you crashed into my girl." Well, but the whole point is, you shouldn't, Richard, because it's an accident. The guy crashes in, and no one I've ever been courtside, things like that happen. You should be prepared for them. But to get mad at him for that, all right, yeah, it's still not acceptable. You got to watch your temper, and you have to say, hey, look, is my predilection toward anger? If it is, you got to fix it, see a therapist for it, do something to stop it, because it's going to get you in trouble. It's going to get you in trouble with a lot of people. And Richard says, I'm not saying he was right, but I'll be upset. Well, I wouldn't, because it happens. I mean, how can the man control his fall out of bounds? He wasn't aiming for his girl, all right? And, I mean, it just doesn't, it's just not the case at all. He wasn't aiming for his girl. Accidents happen, and when you spend $62,000 on a courtside seat, you know what? You get that, okay? Cowboy says, he applauds the NBA after acting swiftly. Yeah, I do too. If I'm down there with my date, look, I expect that to happen. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to toss the guy out of the way. If that happens, I'll try to catch him. I'll try to catch his fall. Richard says, a guy crashed his bike into my kid. Would I be justified and angry? That's not the same, though. That's not the same. Okay, that is not the same. Stevenson should be banned for life. Stevens, as we lose his stock in the Warriors, and why was he brought up on charges? Because Lowry would have been retaliated. Yeah, that's true. But Richard, that's not the same. Because what you offered was an accident that occurred in the normal course of life, okay? And yeah, there's a warning on your ticket, all right? My point is, when you sit courtside, you should expect that possibility to happen. This isn't some random thing that you didn't know was going to happen. Cal Russ says, look, when you buy courtside tickets, you and whoever you're with should be prepared for that kind of stuff. Case closed. That's it. You should be prepared for it. Straight away. It's not Kyle Lowry's fault. And I'm certain that he didn't mean any harm to anybody. And looks like his wife got up, actually. His wife got up. Lowry's, managed to crash into the seat. She wasn't harmed. So which means she's got great reflexes, better than his, which means he didn't even have to do that, okay? He did not have to do that. It is a bad look for the Warriors. Richard says, I'm just offering a different take. Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, that's why we love you. The whole point is, and by the way, I'm going to finals game 4 tomorrow. But the point that I'm making is that, look, Kyle Lowry should be commended. But my greatest fear of all this is that the refs will take it out on the Warriors. And they'll say, you know what, you guys, you've had your day, you're done. There's a foul there. J. Phil 51 says it happens all the time and people never react like that. He was out of pocket. Yeah, completely out of pocket. And J. Will 501 is right. It does happen all the time. Kyle Lowry says, I actually went to my first NBA game last month. Oh, where? Warriors? But he was out of pocket. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. FYI, I ordered pizza, so I may have to go and then come back when that happens. Just anyway. Richard Ike says his wife was already standing and may have gotten a hand to the face, but wow, the guy in the chair got absolutely demolished, and that poor lady behind him, ouch. It happens. You know? It happens. You sit courtside, that's what you get. Maybe more people, whether they're sitting physically courtside, will buy virtual reality glasses, right? And they'll have the camera take the punishment. You ever seen how that works? That was a big thing at CES. They really have improved that technology where you and you and you and I, we can all be at the same courtside seat in Oakland, from anywhere in the world, and experience the game. Hey, Mark's a billionaire. He could sit at home in Atherton, right? So Mark really, and here's the cool aspect about it from his standpoint. He could be at the game and yet not be at the game. Richard Hike says, I won't say it was racist as much as it came from a place of privilege. A lot of those rich folks get away with murder out there, but Richard, black folks call that racist. That's called institutional racism. Okay? So a place of privilege is, I think I'm better than you. Racism is putting someone else down because you think they're better, that you're better than they are because of their race. I had somebody else, white, say the same thing to me. You gotta listen, okay? Strip off your desire to maintain the opposing view and see the world as we do. Because if you see the world as we do, you know what? You'll get it. No one will make that mistake, okay? Racism is one person thinking they're better than the other person because that person is of another race. I don't care if it's where it comes from, all right? But a jerk with money, hold on a second, a jerk with money can apply that jerkdom to racism. You can't say he's just a jerk with money and say he's not racist. A racist with money is a jerk with money. And my point is, why is it that white folks are afraid to say, hey, look, well, actually, you know what? I stand corrected. Why is it that older white folks are afraid to call out racism? Because in Lyft car, I had a white guy who's actually Simon, who's playing for the Oakland Roots soccer, and he said this is what he said to me, okay? He says, Richard says, I hear you, but I see the world from being relatively poor and how rich people treat us. Yep, but hear up, Richard, okay? Because Simon's white, and this is what Simon said to me, bringing me back home after meetings, okay? Classism and racism can be mixed, but this is what he said to me. He said, look, I know racism when I see it. And how can you do something like that unless you're white? He says, what is he, from the village or something? Where he hasn't been around different kinds of people? He says, I'm white, but I get it. So I really disagree with the idea that because a person's white, they see it that way. Because I've had white people tell me the opposite of what you're saying. But they're younger. They tend to be younger. Like, he's like 28, okay? So my point is, the younger generation younger generation white folks, they get it, all right? For the most part, they get it. They really get it. And I that's why I really am proud of where this country has gone, because they have zero problem being empathic. And that's why you see so many in interracial relationships, white guys with black girls and everything else. That's awesome. Because you know what? They're the first. They're looking out for their honey who's black. They're like, hey, look, you don't screw with my honey. What you doing, man? All right? So it's interracial. And that's the way it should be. That is the way it should be. So, Mark Stevens, he's part of the old guard. You got to go. The old guard, doesn't see things like that. But the new guard, no, you don't do that sort of thing. The new guard gets it. Like I said, I go after, like Simon, who's with the Oakland Roots soccer team, professional soccer team. Still looking for a home, by the way. He told me. He gets it. He gets it. So, I don't know my hat. I was going to take my hat off to him because I that had a big, big impact on me today. And I've heard it before and I've seen it before. And I think it's awesome. I think the way this country is changing that way, where people understand each other like that, is really awesome. You know, racism is racism does not have to be a name call. It could be just how you treat somebody. It could be like, for example, I'm at CES and this girl who's Asian, I may have told the story before, but she passes by me, talks to everybody in line regarding signups, and I'm press, and I'm running a press badge. So I complained. And, you know, she didn't have a good reason for it. She came up with some thing like, well, you know, the other person spoke a different language. I said, no, they didn't. They spoke English. They spoke English. The person was right behind me, and they spoke English. And you say that the other person was Mandarin, but it doesn't matter. But see, she didn't know. She didn't even see me as important enough to cost her her job. So steeped in being racist was she. She didn't see that. Okay, and I made a video about it. It's on Zenny60 on YouTube to this day, CS. It came that close to firing her, scared the crap out of her. You don't selectively skip over people because they look a certain way. Or maybe, you know, you don't like black guys and you're a girl. Tough. You're in a professional environment. And that is, like Dr. Alwyn Poussaint, the psychiatrist, would say, hey, you know what? That's extreme. That's an example of why racism is a mental illness, because she would actually, you know, cost, Richard says you can take my word for it because he doesn't see as much as a rich guy who uses privilege. But see, that's the thing. Every single black person says, hey, look, rich white guy seeing himself as better than a black person, period. Okay? And it doesn't matter. You can't say, well, because he treats someone poor and white the same way, you can't say it's not racist. It could be the same, hey, Sean Grogan, it could be the same treatment, but for different reasons, okay? The same treatment, but for different reasons. And it manifests itself in different ways. Both are wrong. Both are wrong. Both are wrong. I want to shift gears a little bit because Oakland Raiders tomorrow, that's the other reason I'm going to close this live stream early, because I want to get some rest and go. The Oakland Raiders are supposed to be in court against your city of Oakland. Cal says, Richard Hike, he is a typical upper-class East Bay resident who hides his racism by being a fake progressive. Who are you talking about? Actually, he's not an East Bay guy if you're talking about Mark Stevens. Mark Stevens is actually, if you don't know, you obviously don't know the Bay Area. Atherton is in the West Bay. Right. Atherton, well, I knew you meant that. I know you did. Richard's my boy, okay? He's not my boy, but he's my friend, man. I know you're talking about my Richard. My Richard. Sorry. You know what I mean, Richard. Oh, boy, what a week. All right. My point is, I know you're talking about Mark Steffens, but Atherton is in the West Bay, and it's near Menlo Park. It's a very wealthy enclave, okay? And my boy Blue. It's a very wealthy enclave, but and not only that, Mark Stevens is not a progressive. He is a Republican. He has donated, all told, $12 million, at least in 2012 alone, to Republican candidates and causes, with the exception of Obama for America. Yeah, Richard Hike says Atherton is like South Bay Peninsula. Yeah, that's right. So, but at any rate, he's a Republican donor. There is not an ounce, with the exception of Obama for America, there isn't an ounce of Democrat on him. Forget it. Okay? I mean, forget it. And that's the way that is. I'm glad this happened. Because you know why? He was part of that, backstory of people you don't hear about, you don't see about. Now, everybody's looking at him, okay? And then on top of that, you have athletes like Serena Williams, who will be part of it. I wrote about this on oaklandnewsnow.com. And Rich Ike says, well, now might be seeing your point on the racism. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, oaklandnewsnow.com, I was talking about the new venture capitalists, okay? And they're professional athletes. Serena Williams has her own Serena Ventures. Kevin Durant has something called 35 Ventures. You've got Aaron Rodgers, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Brett Jones, Tommy Vardell, a number of guys, number of athletes, guys and gals, but guys and the gal are heavily investing in tech. And they're emphasizing women and people of color too, particularly Serena Williams. Uh, the LeBron, have you heard? Do you realize that LeBron has invested in a company called Blaze Pizza? And I hear Blaze Pizza is really good. Another Uber driver, Lyft driver, was telling me about it. Blaze Pizza is working on an IPO path, and they're planning to have 500 outlets. I took a look at their pizza, and you know what? I wish there was a Blaze Pizza in Oakland. I'd order from them like that, because they like have big ingredients, you know. It's like it's really good. I'm like, oh. But that's LeBron's thing. And the group, they're young, hip folks of color, white and folks of color, mix, you know. And, but hip, 20-somethings. And they've got a special way of making pizza that LeBron liked. And I don't know how much he put in. I'll find out, because Crunchbase is listed, has him listed. Hey, I'm on Crunchbase, by the way. Richard Hike says, I do like me some pizza. Ditto. Yeah, so but I'm glad it happened. But as far as the Oakland Raiders and the city of Oakland tomorrow, as the saying goes, diversity rocks. It does. It really does, you know? It's because you can learn from people, different backgrounds and everything. You can't see everything. People are not going to react to you the same way as they react to me and everything else, right? That's just life. And it's more fun when it's that way. You can make fun of each other when you're friends, and, you know, you have a lot of great memories. And what bothered me about high school and junior high school for me is I'm thinking, you know, we had like our class president was black and everything else. And it seemed like when you got out, it wasn't like that. Now it's different. And I think that I credit Barack Obama. You know why? Because to me, President Obama was the guy that when you thought about Barack and you met him, he reminded you of the guy that you knew in high school who you said, that guy should be class president. Except you're voting for president, right? Now, how do I explain Trump in that context? It's not that, man. I think it's more like, well, it was, you know what it was? It was like, well, gee, I'll tell you what it was, okay? This is what it was. It was, do we vote for Donald Trump or Tracy Flick? Okay? And by Tracy Flick, I mean Hillary Clinton. If you've ever seen the movie Election, you simply, I have it here somewhere, I think, you simply must see Election. It's with Reese Witherspoon, and she plays this hard-ass kid who goes by the book every election, but she wants to win, okay? She's win at all costs. And there was a lot of Tracy Flick. There's a lot of Tracy Flick in Hillary Clinton. And I believe that's why Hillary Clinton lost. Tracy Flick wasn't the most popular person. So it's, hey, Tracy Flick, Donald Trump. Tracy Flick, Donald Trump. And so they picked Donald Trump. And then people started talking about all his foibles. Oh, he did this, and oh, he did that. And what's that thing about casting the first stone, right? A lot of people say, wait a minute. I screwed up here and there. You're going to demonize me too? Well, heck, put him in office. And the people who voted that way are not the people who are active on social media. The people who voted that way, for the most part, are not the people who are active on social media. They stay silent, listen to you, generally from the South, very nice, you know, nice persona, nice, you know, delivery, but in the back of their mind, they got something else going on. They go into the ballot box, chook, next thing you know, whoa, it's Trump, you know? Think about that. Anyway, City of Oakland versus the Oakland Raiders. Motion to dismiss is supposed to come up tomorrow morning at 9:30. I plan to be there. What do I expect to happen? I expect the motion to dismiss to be denied. Hopefully the attorneys on this that are representing the plaintiff are smart enough to realize this. There's one area in that complaint that to me is, and I'm going to curse here, fucking stupid. There's two of them, okay? First of all, the complaint says this. Well, the complaint says that it's the city of Oakland and then the NFL. But even if the Raiders all right, we're back. One moment, please. That is Round Table Pizza. One moment, please. I'll be right back. Hold on a second. Hello? Yes, come on up. Thank you.
Are you?
Hello. Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh, right. I'm on live stream. Got my show going.
Yeah. You sign the receipt, please.
Yes, absolutely. Where's the line that I signed?
Whatever.
Right here. Okay. I'll give you cash. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's see, 34. Got it? Oh, here. Okay. Hold that for a moment, sir.
Thank you so much.
Put this in here. And then, cash-wise, what is this? 5.
Thank you.
You got it? That's your pen, by the way.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Thank you. Thanks again. Drive careful.
Thanks.
Huh? Okay. Okay, so I'm back. No, it's not the excellent dinner that my mom makes back in Georgia. It's Round Table Pizza. This is the all-meat marvel, Mike Montague's, whatever they call it. But anyway, okay. Here's the problem I was talking about with respect to the argument that the defendants gave for why they believe the case should be dismissed. They basically say, look, any NFL team, this is the way it's written. If you read the 33-page answer or dismissal motion, any NFL team can play in Oakland. Just because the Raiders decide they don't have to play in Oakland doesn't mean any other NFL team can't. Here's how stupid that is. And let's use us as an example, okay? if, let's say, Cowboy Wrestler, let's say that you and I are supposed to play, our team is supposed to play football, well, in Oakland, but then you decide you want to play in Dallas, and I'm on your schedule. I can't say, oh, I'm going to play an imaginary team that you have in Oakland. I have to go to Dallas, right? So that fact right there obliterates their argument. It was really a stupid argument. That's the first one. I haven't one of these, excuse me, in a while. It's been about 2 years. It's good. It's actually gotten better. Yum. Fresh meat. I like it. I have onions and I ordered peppers. I don't see peppers in here. I'm looking for bell peppers, but I'm gonna check my receipt to make sure they didn't add them, but not add them. Get my money back. Anyway, but it is good. Quite good. It's got pepperoni, sausage, and ham. This is really good. Look at this. Pepperoni, sausage, and ham. Okay. Yeah, hungry. For a non-dip deep dish pizza, excellent. Okay. The second argument they're making is, to me, a doozy. It's this. Well, the city of Oakland doesn't own the Coliseum. It's the Oakland Alameda County Joint Powers Authority. The city of Oakland can't be a party to it. They have nothing to do with it. That's their argument. This is in black and white. You want to know how stupid that is? I'll tell you. Just look at Section 6500 of the California Government Code. It talks about the formation of joint powers authorities, and it says that any legislative body in California can form one. In other words, if you're a city council like Oakland's, you form one. What does that mean? When you form a joint powers authority, you are what? Party to the creation of the authority. Why? Because your legislative body created it. Something else, too. The reason why the Joint Powers Authority was created wasn't to have some sort of political club. No. The original Joint Powers Authority had 4 members. The 4 members, okay? As Cowboy says, typical Raider foolery. Yeah, well, yeah, foolery is, I think, the right word. It had just 4 members. It had the county administrator, Susan Marinici, now, Steve Zaley then, Craig Koshin, okay, and representing the city of Oakland, city manager, and then they had 1 member of the city council, 1 member of the board of supervisors, and that was it. But then De La Fuente said, hey, you know what, he and Ezra Rapport created the authority as you see it here with the elected officials and everything else, okay? I think everything was a good idea because he said, look, it's our money now. We want to keep an eye on this, okay? That was, and when he said that, it was in response to the fact that the PSLs hadn't sold and the trigger was for the money to come out of the general funds at both the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda, all right? So all of that points to one thing. The city of Oakland is heavily involved in it, okay? Heavily involved in it. You can't say they were not a party. But that's what the Raiders and the NFL attorneys wrote in black and white. I howled. The only way they would possibly get away with that is if the judge didn't know what the fuck he was looking at, which is possible, okay? But hopefully the attorneys know, like James Quinn, they know that, hey, you know what? They're trying to fool them. So we'll have to see what happens. When you're arguing a case, you have to win on every point, just the important ones. And you can't if you can't make a case for, if you're telling me the city of Oakland shouldn't be involved, and they are, that's crazy. And then if you're telling me, oh, hey, by the way, it has nothing, look, I have to go where the other team I play is, and yet you're saying I don't? That's crazy too. So if you accept the fact that that's crazy, then you accept the rest of the counter argument regarding antitrust. And the point that James Quinn and his people are making is that, look, the Raiders, it wasn't a matter of restraining trade. The Raiders didn't have the freedom to just move whenever they want to, because they're bound by their own guidelines, the NFL guidelines. And the St. Louis court has already said, hey, look, those guidelines are binding and they're just, okay? And they are something you need to follow. So I would be very surprised if this thing weren't dismissed. I mean, excuse me, if their argument, if the motion to dismiss weren't dismissed itself, okay? I would be very surprised if the judge stopped everything right there, as opposed to what I expect the judge to do, say, you know what, this is for trial, here's why, we're moving to trial. That's what I expect to happen. So, but I'm gonna be there to see. I don't know if you're gonna be there or not. And it's for that reason I'm gonna shove off and get some sleep so I can wake up. I'm already on East Coast time, and I want to eat my pizza. So I will see you all. I'm going to do a live stream from Oracle Arena before the NBA finals start. I'll be there early, about 3 o'clock, 2 or 3 o'clock Pacific time at Oracle. Just hanging out and going around and giving you an idea what's happening. As Richard Hike says, go Dubs! I say, go Dubs! Go Dubs. All right. See you all, and please, if you haven't done so, subscribe. Oh, by the way, when you subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube, make sure you hit the notification bell so you get the notification. Did everybody get their notification? I guess they did. We have a, good response. You got it? You gotta get that W. That's right. Gotta get that W. Good night, all. Good night, Sean. Good night. All right. I'll see you guys.